Hey guys, Theo here with my first commentated speedrun of Shovel Knight. This game is a super awesome retro-inspired platformer released by Yacht Club in June 2014. It was actually released during SGDQ, interestingly enough. Hopefully it's able to make it into the marathon, although I've heard rumors that it might already be rejected. So in case, here's basically a worse run than the one you would have been seeing. Um, Starting off, this is the demo level slash tutorial level, I guess, but despite that, it has a couple of speedrunning tricks. Starting with jumping up ladders to save time, jumping off the last couple rungs of a ladder to save a couple frames, and generally just avoiding ladders if you can. Making that platform is really tight, and making that platform is actually one of the tightest jumps in the game. Um, some complain about this game being a little easy and slow, I guess. But I believe in any percent run is actually ridiculously fast paced. I'm not terribly great at the game. Captain Drake is much better than I am. He has a lot more optimization and stuff, but this is just the optimization that I found and am able to explain so far. If you do a short hop right there, you don't get hit by the guy, and if you basically just alternate between mashing and attacking right there, you can get through there. Right here, you're going to see me pogo off of the side of an enemy. This game kind of has a DuckTales like pogo mechanic where you kind of just bounce off enemies and stuff, but it also handles hitboxes kind of awkwardly, so if you are in a pogo animation and run into the side of an enemy's hitbox, you'll still pogo off of it. You'll see me do that a lot. Right there, I jumped on the previous screen to make it possible to pogo both those blocks at once to get through that mini boss optimally. This game's pretty fast paced, so I'm probably not going to be able to explain everything in one run. But there is a ridiculously detailed thread. There's all kinds of Shovel Knight runners. There's a Shovel Knight IRC room if you're curious about running this game. But right here, I believe we have a Black Knight quick kill, if I remember right. Basically what you want to do is just pin him into the corner and hit him with this rhythm that I didn't really hit very well. It's basically just 1, 2, 3, 4, and on each of those beats you kind of have to jump towards him and hit X. When you're attacking in this game, if you're in mid-air, you're able to cancel the animation and do another attack, so you can normally get 2 hits off. But for that fight, you need to have really specific timing to keep him in the corner. That was actually a pretty good plains and close to the best I've ever had. You have to enter the village before you can go to either of the next 2 levels. I think it saves a little bit of time to technically go to Spectre Knight first, but I kind of have my own route here that I just do kind of because I've always done it. Right here, believe it or not, getting past that cauldron was actually frame perfect. And you can make it past that cauldron with another frame perfect movement through that room, but I didn't really get it that time. But in the first room, you have to jump at the start of the screen to immediately get up to full speed, which I haven't really talked about yet, and move perfectly in order to get underneath that fire cauldron. It doesn't look very impressive, but it is. It's just one of those things that when you start running the game, it's something you kind of look out for, I guess. So that pogo is really tight and kind of hard to do. Just learn the positioning for it. And right here, you're doing another short hop. And right here, I'm not actually sure if this is optimal, but it feels optimal to me. I don't get the flame rod because it takes about 15 seconds to get it. And I'm not sure when combined with the phase locket if it's worth it to get it. I just decided to get the flame rod and the phase locket at the same time because it saves a little bit of time, I feel. I could be wrong, I guess, but that's just always how I viewed it. This room's actually a lot scarier than it looks because these rats are 100% random. I've noticed they sometimes are influenced by where you are, but it's not always. And if you jump perfectly in that room, you'll be able to get through there without getting hit, but I didn't have this set up on the chandelier right. Alright, so coming up is something that looks pretty impressive, but is actually really easy. Right here, you're just holding right and jumping and pogoing off of this guy if he moves up, and you'll just barely make this cycle perfectly. Getting through that room is actually kind of tricky when you're doing it casually, so it's kind of nice to be able to get it. And there's actually one pixel you can stand on in front of that griffin to get over him without getting hit, but I obviously didn't get it. Alright, so King Knight is basically just wail on him as hard as you can. Again, you can see me doing 2 damage with every jump because I'm hitting him on the way up and on the way down. I used a pogo right there to pin myself against the ceiling to do 3 quick hits of damage. And that was actually a pretty good fight because I was able to kill him before he dashed across the stage over and over again. And I didn't really have time to talk about this, but you're able to skip most of the dream sequences just by mashing start as soon as the level fades out. Now, it's RNG if this guy gets in your way or not. Yacht Club has supposedly said that they're trying to find a way to allow for RNG manipulation, so it's a little bit easier to do any percent runs, I guess, since you'll notice that that's kind of a big component in this run, unfortunately. But since there's a decent amount of money in there, I actually kind of have a route for if I hit it and if I don't hit it, and hitting it actually it wastes a little bit of time, but it makes it more likely for me to actually finish the run, so I normally don't care. These frogs are completely random, by the way, so don't try to use them for any kind of enemy manipulations or whatever, because when they jump, how far they jump, and if they're electrified is completely random. So right here, there's a better damage boost I could have done off of that first skeleton, but I kind of messed it up, so whatever. I just thought I would point it out for people who are learning this game. So like I was kind of saying in the last level, there are 2 relics that I could have picked up to help me out in these 2 levels, the Flame Rod and the Phase Locket. The Flame Rod is a weapon that I could have gotten in King Knight stage that would have allowed me to shoot 2 fireballs, and it would have helped in this level, but because I'm skipping the Phase Locket because it takes a while, it doesn't really make sense to go out of my way and get the Flame Rod. Also, that jump is a lot scarier than it looks because those spikes on the ceiling will kill you. If you short hop here, you'll make it to this platform in time. But yeah, since I was skipping the Phase Locket anyway, I skipped the Flame Rod as well. I'm not sure if it's optimal to do that or not, but it feels optimal to me, so... and right there, I accidentally didn't shovel the skull enough because you need 2 things to weigh it down. Wait for that guy to attack you, and then just pogo off of him to get that chicken right there. And if you don't fight the gold guy when you break that checkpoint, you'll probably have closer to about 5,200 gold or so. And I actually haven't even talked about that yet, I guess, but one of the things I actually really like about any percent is that you have to break the checkpoints in order to have enough money to afford things. New Game Plus, you already have all of the relics and stuff, so it's not really important. By the way, this room's terrifying. The relics aren't super important in any of the other categories, but because we don't have money, or because we don't have anything and we're trying to do this fast, money is actually incredibly important in this run. This is actually probably one of the scariest rooms in the game, just because you're obviously blind for most of it. So right here is a boss that's random, but I think you can manipulate pretty easily. If you attack him and are in a certain position when he disappears, he'll normally appear down there. He either appears down there or on the other side, so you have a 50-50 chance of getting lucky. Right here I didn't because I was too far over, I guess. But I still had a pretty good fight against him because I was able to kill him before he made the screen dark, which is generally what you want to try to aim for. Again, you saw me attacking him twice a lot to do more damage than I was supposed to. And right here is an example of the first unskippable dream sequence. After you complete each section on the map, and it's pretty obvious, after you complete each section, you'll have an unskippable dream sequence where you just kind of have to kill some enemies and try to save Shield Knight. Normally, it's faster to just die during these cutscenes, but for the first one, you actually need money. So you have to wait for these guys to spawn by standing there until they jump at you. You can get kind of unlucky and have one not spawn otherwise, like kind of like what happened here. But if you get lucky, you're actually able to get both of them. I unfortunately wasn't able to, but since I was able to kill one of the knights, I have enough money to get everything that I need. 9,500 gold is pretty much perfect for what I want. And I guess I should mention, before I go on too far, that you definitely want to use the skulls from the skeletons in the first wave to try to kill the enemies faster, because they bounce off the side of the walls and do a ton of damage. Right here I actually skip the extra meal ticket for a minute because I'm not sure if I have enough money. But after I buy the relics, I'll realize that I have enough and grab this extra music sheet right here. There's 46, I believe, music sheets hidden throughout the game, and I mean, they're cool little like side rooms and stuff, but you don't really need them for anything. But that one's like right on the path, especially if you skip the relics in the first place. I didn't mean to talk to him again. I just kind of bonked my head on the ceiling as I was trying to jump up. But yeah, that sheet is on the path when you skip the relics, so you're able to get both these extra feed here. And I actually messed up and talked to that randomly generated horse or horse NPC instead of the guy I was trying to talk to. It's completely random and if that happens, and unfortunately there's nothing you can do about it, because by the time you notice that you're talking to not the right person, you've already mashed start twice. It's worth noting that Drake doesn't get this extra meal ticket that I got, so he actually has like more money coming into this level. So I actually have to be a little bit more resourceful with money than the world record run, because I had to get the extra meal ticket to survive the boss refights later. So I actually have to be pretty risky during this unfortunately slow auto-scroller part. Again, jumping and mashing lets you get through that part really quick, and that guy like came very close to ending my run, actually. I actually don't think I needed to get that. I haven't done the math on it exactly, but I think I would have been okay if I skipped that treasure chest. But this is a run that I really just kind of wanted to finish. I had been streaming for like 3 hours at this point, I think, and was about to give up like for the day anyway, so I really just wanted to finish a run. So I just decided to play it safe with money, and playing it safe with money meant that I didn't actually have to get any of the extra money that I would have gotten here, because I have 3,000 gold right here, and that was my goal. But I could have picked up these 3 red gems right there if I needed to, and there's a little bit of extra money I can pick up from the upcoming checkpoint if I'm really short. But since I have 3,000, I'm going to mash the attack button right there and just go straight into here and pick up the Dust Knuckles. This is a weapon that was actually kind of like debated on if it was worth getting early on in the speedrun, or the speedrun routing in this game, I guess. If you quick break that, you'll be able to get onto this platform, by the way. But yeah, Dust Knuckles were kind of hotly debated for a while. I've personally kind of always used them, even when everyone thought they were slower, just because I've always kind of liked them. But you'll see that there's a couple of skips that we can only do with the Dust Knuckles that make it worth going out of your way to get them and get a little bit of extra money. Right here, you need to cancel your pogo after that, otherwise you'll die. Because, as you'll see right here, hitting those with your shovel blows them up instantly. And that that Dust Knuckle usage right there looks a lot scarier than it actually is, because when you use the Dust Knuckles, you're invulnerable for a while. In addition to enemy hitboxes disappearing when you attack them. I can't remember if I said that in this run yet or not. I did this part sloppy because I unfortunately timed it wrong. I should have Dust Knuckled through those and then Dust Knuckled through those blocks right there. I could have actually saved even more time than I did, but that skip is one of the main reasons why Dust Knuckles are worth it. You get to see me be the worst shot in the world right here and miss like 3 shots in a row, I think. Okay, so it was only 2, but either way, it looked pretty bad. But that pattern of using the flame rod and kind of just pinning yourself up into the corner and timing your shovel hits against him will allow you to kill him before he gets underground. His second phase is actually like really difficult, so learning the quick kills on most of these bosses is generally worth it. Like, most of the time, you kind of just have to... I don't know, like, I've tried speedrunning a couple of Mega Man games, I guess, like, a lot more casually than this, and being good at the Robot Masters in those games is, like, obviously helpful, but not, like, critical, but in this game it really makes, like, a huge difference. And, I mean, obviously I'm not a very good Mega Man speedrunner if I'm saying that, so that might not even mean anything, but just saying that if you're learning this game, it's definitely worth it to learn how to quickly kill the bosses. There's not really very much you can do to quick kill this boss, unfortunately. Getting a little bit up ahead of myself, but... And I guess I should point out, even though I kind of mentioned it, I'm breaking all of these checkpoints for extra money, so if I die at any point in these levels, I get sent back to the very beginning of the level. It's not going to be like that the entire run. I believe I actually skipped breaking one of the checkpoints in this level on accident, but I'm done breaking checkpoints after Treasure Night. But again, that's just another reason why I like running any percent. New Game Plus has 1 checkpoint per level, but you also don't need to break the checkpoints ever because you already have everything that you need in terms of money and upgrades and stuff. So there's no reason to break checkpoints. I don't know why I didn't use the phase locket there to avoid taking damage, but I just kind of spaced on it, I guess. Right here, you're going to want to fire 2 shots right away, wait for those shots to hit them, and then fire another 2, and then just kind of wail on them while you can. And if you can, you want to time your shovel shots to keep one of the potions in the air, because the potions do a full circle of damage versus a half circle, I guess. So I don't know why, but I didn't break that checkpoint. I kind of took a risk with just skipping it for some reason. I've never actually done that in any other run, so I don't really know why I decided to do it this time, but whatever. Right here is going to be some more manipulation of just damage boosting and using the Dust Knuckles to kind of glitch my way through a platform. Sorry, my throat's scratchy. So right here, this guy, the green guy on the top, is going to jump off, and you want to pogo off of him. I messed it up here, but what you want to do is wait for him to turn around, pogo, and then dust knuckles. You have to use the dust knuckles to glitch up there, because the dust knuckles animation is what like actually pushes you up there in the first place. You can't make it up there any other way. So that skip, when you hit it right the first time, saves 7 seconds. I should have passed through him right there. I was kind of pissed off that I didn't, because I started the dust knuckle animation, but I guess he hit me like very slightly early. And like I was saying earlier in this level, this is the one boss that doesn't really have a setup. It's unfortunately very random, and this is the one boss where the stage fight of it is actually like significantly harder than the refight of it. The refight of it is actually pretty easy, except for the fact that you make it harder on yourself. I'll get to that a lot later. But that fight actually went like significantly better than it's ever gone before. Normally he'll jump all over the stage and start throwing those shots and exploding the jars all over the place and stuff. It actually becomes kind of a nightmare. Alright. So there's not really a whole lot that you can do to speed up this level, unfortunately, on any percent route. There's some stuff you can do once you get other weapons in other categories, I believe. But right here, if you shovel twice to get that guy firing around and then shovel again before he falls onto the spikes, you can break those bubbles and save about 2 seconds. Right here you can actually blow this thing up really quickly by pogoing off of it, but you can't actually save any time because that snail is unfortunately always in the way. So it's technically faster to use a pogo to clear that last checkpoint, but it doesn't really do anything. Right here I should have waited a little bit longer to use my first pogo so I could have gotten through here a little bit smoother. But I guess that was better than I remember it being. So right here you have a random chance of clipping through that eel, and it avoids you having to clear those blocks right there. It's a really, really, really minor time save, but this game's kind of really full of those minor time saves that add up. So coming up is the fish mini-boss. Unfortunately, I have to admit that I've died on this stupid little chase scene more times than I'd care to admit. I'd actually died like on a really good run here the other day, so I was kind of just trying to focus. But on the actual fight, you want to wait for him to fire this fish and then immediately start attacking him. And the optimal pattern for you to attack him is to hit him twice with your shovel and then fire a flame rod shot at him. And unfortunately, I was one hit away from getting the one cycle on him. It obviously doesn't lose too much time, but it loses enough time, I guess. And you don't need to get this, but since there's going to be a lot of damage boosting in the next part, I like to have health. Hold right when you're getting hit by that first ray, and then jump into that guy to do the second damage boost. That's actually the first time I've messed up the treasure skip in a while, but you're able to pogo off of that dirt pile that gets knocked off the dirt, or that gets knocked off the wall, and skip having to use those missiles in the room 2 rooms back, I guess, now. If you hit this if you hit this at the right time, you're able to just kind of go shooting through that tunnel. And right here, you don't want to hit this checkpoint because you won't be able to make it back across before the anchor falls again. And I actually could have kept pogoing there to completely skip that part, but I kind of wussed out and used the face locket instead. But that's kind of the main reason why you want to have the face locket equipped in that room. If you fall off screen right there, you will die. And I mean, that seems obvious, but just that little time save from when you're like frozen in the air with the face locket is enough to save yourself right there. So right here is another random boss. We can randomly get really lucky if he decides to anchor himself to the ceiling and go to the top, because like King Knight will be able to pin ourselves. And he actually did it for me perfectly right here, and then I messed it up, but I was still able to get like, I want to say 4 or 5 hits off right there. He actually gave me literally the perfect pattern, and if I would have been able to take advantage of that, I could have probably saved another like 5 seconds easily on that fight. Maybe a little bit more. So unfortunately, because I have 6 health, I am actually going to be losing a little bit of time from this dream sequence compared to the world record. In the world record, it's actually faster to use the knight's dashing attacks right here. It's faster to use that attack and the birds dropping the potions to just kill yourself. But because you have 6 health, you unfortunately aren't able to kill yourself before a time where it would be like beneficial. So you kind of just have to wait for Shield Knight to fall. I was still able to save a little bit of time because I pogoed up to her, but nothing huge, and that was almost a gold. So that went pretty well. First time ever I've talked to that guy. That's why the text box was there so long. I was kind of confused. And here is the major shopping trip of the run, where we get the Conjurer's Coat and the Charge Slash, I believe it's called. Charge Slash allows us to hold down the attack button and do a charge attack that does twice as much damage. And the Conjurer's Coat gives us 50 more magic, but basically cuts our HP in half. And you haven't really seen me have to deal with the overworld RNG very much here, but because Black Knight was in such a bad spot, I just decided to fight him anyway. But this is the pattern that you should have used for Black Knight the first time. I just kind of messed it up. Be warned in the refights that he does hop behind you at some point, so you actually have to turn around for the final hit or two. But you can see that it obviously takes forever to fight even the fast bosses, so it's not worth it most of the time to go through the stages. It's just he was on Propeller Knight and there was no one else over here, so I decided it'd be worth it. And I actually, that gamble ended up working out pretty well for the most part, even though I lost 30 seconds actually having to fight him. So like I was saying before the Black Knight fight, my HP is basically cut in half now. So I take double damage from everything. Right here is a really hard skip. This is actually the first time I've gotten in a run and actually stayed up there. You want to shovel that beetle, and then at the height of it like recoiling from your shovel, you want to pogo off of it and turn around and immediately hit a fire shot, because that guy will hit you down otherwise. It's probably one of the tightest tricks in terms of positioning, I'd say, in the run. Fire 2 shots off right there, because that green guy will get all up in your business otherwise. And right here on the mini boss, you want to fire 2 shots ideally, and then just kind of wail on him. If you hit him with the bomb, you can actually end the fight faster because the bomb explosion will do a ton of damage to him. Skipping that checkpoint just because it takes a little while to get over there, hit it, and walk back. Drop back down onto the screen to pick up the propeller dagger right here. If you thought that this game was kind of lame because there wasn't really any way to speed it up, the propeller dagger kind of says otherwise. Like, this is the main reason why I love running this game, because just having that movement option that is actually slightly faster makes it so much more worth it. So right here you want to pogo off of the first two guys and then propeller dagger over. I'm probably going to call it P-dagger because I'm going to be saying that a lot from now on. There's not really a good way to deal with this room, so you kind of just have to wait. If you're really lucky, you can dagger your way through on the first shot and not even have to wait. But it's very, very precise, and I don't like doing it because falling wastes forever. Wastes a lot of time, is what I meant to say. And unfortunately, the next two levels, or I guess the next four, I'll have some kind of auto-scrolling element in them. It's kind of unfortunate because it kind of kills the hype on an otherwise pretty good run. But there's not really very much you can do to speed these up. And I don't really know why I broke that checkpoint, to be perfectly honest. I had no reason to. And it kind of made this next part a little scarier than it needed to be. But luckily I've finally put enough practice into this stupid level that I've learned what I'm supposed to do here. Those of you that may have watched my streams before have seen me literally waste a minute on that room trying to get that dagger right. But whatever. If you jump before the wind transitions, you'll be able to dagger your way over to that safe spot on the ceiling. And right here, you need to have at least 20 magic to be able to get through this next part the way that I do. So if you don't, you might have to take these rooms a little differently. But you can dagger across and pogo. If you need practice for that, there's actually a level that forces you to do that. I think it's one of the bonus levels. And you pick up 60 magic in the hallway before Propeller Knight. So you'll have enough. Just switch over to the anchors here and kind of just keep turning around back and forth and wailing on them. Jump towards the right side of the screen and just use your relics over and over again. And right here is kind of an interesting glitch where, since you've already won, it doesn't really matter. But you technically just killed yourself. Because if you fall in those, normally you'd die. But Shovel Knight does whatever he wants, I guess. And coming up is probably the easiest level in the game, in my opinion. Even more so than Plains. But first I have to actually do a little bit of overworld manipulation to get this guy out of my way. You can hop into a level you've already beaten and then just exit back out to kind of shuffle the RNG again. Yacht Club again said that they were working on something to help us, or help speedrunners manipulate it, I guess, because they've actually been really cool with the speedrunning community for this game so far. So that's really cool. And I guess I can say, since this level is pretty boring and all I'm doing is dashing places and it's pretty self-explanatory, even though I don't have game audio going for this, the soundtrack for this game is incredible. It's legitimately one of the best 8-bit soundtracks I've ever heard. One of the composers for Mega Man helped out with, I don't know how much of the soundtrack, but you can definitely tell that he helped out with enough of it to make it a legit 8-bit soundtrack. Playing through this game casually, you kind of forget that it's a new release because it really just feels like a game that should have come out for the Nintendo 30 years ago. But yeah, I just thought that would be interesting to point out there. I'm going over here to pick up the mobile gear, which kind of seems weird if you've played the game casually, because it's not exactly the greatest relic. Like, you put a gear on the ground and you're able to go places pretty much. And for casual play, the propeller dagger pretty much does everything that you would need for it to do, but better. But there's enough uses for it in a speedrun that I'll point out. Starting with right here, you can use this. You can use the gear to skip this auto scroller part. Thank God, because this part's really slow. You would probably actually be able to do this with a combination of phase locket and propeller dagger if you had enough magic, like maybe in a new game plus or something. But it's not really worth it to do that, and I'll show you why later. There's not really very much to talk about for this part because we have another auto scroller. This one's actually pretty tough. I've personally never died here before, but it is difficult enough that I'm kind of surprised that I've never died here before with some of the dumb places that I've died. Those missiles at the beginning are random, and they can very easily get in your way and start messing stuff up. But for the most part, this is just kind of stay alive. I pick up that magic there to make sure I have enough magic to be able to quickly do the boss fight. And I switch over to mobile gear here because I'm not actually sure if any of the other knights have weaknesses like this, but you can one-hit kill the first phase of Tinker just by hitting him with a mobile gear. Don't jump at all during that fight, because if you land at the same frame as he lands, you will soft lock your game right here. I've had it happen, and it's not very fun. Once he starts filling up his health gauge for the second part of the fight, you can start throwing anchors at him. If you time it right, you can actually hit him twice with one anchor, but it's kind of tricky to do. So normally it's just better to just throw two. You can throw an anchor here and here. Obviously a little bit, like, I had the timing right, but I just threw both of them a little too soon. But with that pattern, you can hit them twice before you start pogoing on them again to save a little bit more time. Alright, first of all, I guess I should point out before the run keeps going, my splits are going to look like I'm saving a ridiculous amount of time here, and I actually am saving time, but it's not nearly as much as it looks like. My splits just got kind of fucked up in my previous PB. So this is probably my favorite level in the run, I'd say, just because I feel like I have it kind of optimized the most. Unfortunately, spoilers, I end up dying, but it wasn't really anything that I could have done. Right here, you want to switch to mobile gear and drop it, and then just jump off of it and hold up. That looks like one of those skips that should be like pixel perfect or something, but you actually have a ton of leeway with that. It's really easy. Unfortunately, you skip the first checkpoint, so you kind of have to do this part really well. It's not exactly the toughest part at all, but it is kind of worth noting for when you're just starting. If you do a charge slash, you'll be able to kill those guys before they turn around. If you just shovel them, you'll kind of like blink off of them. And right here is one of the cooler uses of the propeller dagger. Instead of having to manipulate that platform, you can just propeller dagger twice right here and skip over to here. That probably saves about 30 seconds or so over doing the level the way that you're supposed to. Alright, and right here you want to switch to the throwing anchor, and I take a big risk here, and I just follow this guy up instead of hitting the checkpoint. Normally, I just kind of try to do that, and if I get hit, I'll go hit the checkpoint since I already messed up the cycle anyway. But since there's only like 2 rooms between the next checkpoint, I decided to take a risk, and already I'm like kind of regretting it because I'm only at a half a heart. And unfortunately, I mistime my running speed and die and get sent back a while. This is unfortunately the biggest time loss I had in this run, and I timed it out to be about a minute time loss, I believe. Almost a minute exactly, actually. So unfortunately, you have to see this part again, but I'm kind of pissed that I have to do it again, so at least I'm doing it quicker than I was the first time, I guess. I don't know, I'm trying to find any positive, but really I'm just pissed off at myself for having to do this again. I have a really low tolerance for dying in my runs, and if I wasn't so far ahead, I probably would have reset after that big of a death, but I figured if my splits were saying I was 6 minutes ahead, I was probably pretty far ahead. And right here, I actually did something I'd never done before and kept my throwing anger active. Excuse me. I'll be doing that pretty much every run from here on out because I didn't know that throwing anchors could kill those guys also. And right here you see how close I was to getting the next checkpoint, so it's definitely worth the risk to try to skip that checkpoint. It just didn't work because I took dumb damage in the previous room and got hit by a hammer when I shouldn't have. Getting around that guy without getting hit is virtually impossible, at least for me. And after you go up to this screen, you're going to want to switch to the mobile gear. Again, this is probably another skip that you could do with the propeller dagger and phase locket if you wanted to. But it's easier to do it with the mobile gear. I like to put the phase locket on just to make sure that I'm actually like safe here. Run to the left side of the gear so the gear will actually hit the wizard before it hits you. If you're on the right side of the gear, you'll kind of just get like knocked off of it and have to set up another one. It's not the end of the world, but it is kind of annoying. If you can, it's normally better to come up to him with a shot or a charge shot just to do the full blip of damage. And right here, you just kind of want to spam phase lock it, and once you hear it start running out, just do it again. This is probably one of the easiest boss fights if you have the magic for it. It's the only fight that really encourages you to spam phase lock it, so it kind of just becomes really easy. And if you do this dream sequence optimally, you actually won't lose any time for having 6 hearts, but if you mess up a part of it, this can also be another time loss for taking the extra meal ticket back in the beginning of the game. You have 2 ways that you can get hit for a heart and half of damage here. One of them is the spears that those guys are throwing, and then the other is the actual slashing motion from the Propeller Knight guys. Getting hit by them standing there only does a heart of damage, and you would be surprised how easy it is to get hit by them just standing there. So if you get hit by anything else, you have to take 5 hits instead of 4, which makes it like barely worth it to even get hit at all. But if you can get down in 4 shots, it's faster to die. And I actually got extremely lucky with Overworld RNG here after I fought Black Knight, because Phantom Striker kind of just stayed out of my way. That's unfortunately one of the biggest RNG elements in the run, is the Overworld RNG. And right here, I have no idea what happened. I pretty clearly like switched to the Propeller Dagger and it just didn't equip it for some reason. Like, I must have hit right like a frame after I deselected the menu or something and went back to selecting nothing. Because when I was running it and when I was watching the replay of it, it pretty clearly looked like I selected Propeller Dagger. Bouncing off these rats and around these rats is actually pretty tricky. I was kind of impressed with myself for being able to do that. Because again, those rats' movements are random, so relying on one to get through the room and then relying on another one to get to an ideal spot on the platform isn't the most reliable thing in the world. Right here, if you have the dagger equipped, you can jump up to here, charge a shot, kill that guy, and then once that bubbles all the way up, jump up here and get up to this platform. Then when these start raising, dagger your way over, and you'll be able to get through that pretty optimally, and just have the phase locket equipped and jump through those guys. Runners kind of have a different way of taking this part, but I kind of just like spamming phase locket because it's the most consistent. You can blow up that wall and then pogo off that guy to get through there. And coming up, I'm actually going to use or at least try to. I don't remember if I actually make it. Oh, I do. Okay. I use the fact that phase locket cancels your horizontal falling speed, I guess, to barely clip up there. And right here, I actually take an intentional death to refill my magic. You can see that after I died there, I was only at 40 magic. And since I don't need money anymore, it doesn't matter if I die. And even after that, I'm up to 96. So it'll let me do all of the spamming that I like to do here. If you pogo off that guy, you're actually able to jump over that little stack of boxes and do 3 blades to be able, or 3 daggers to be able to get over there. And then 1 more dagger, and then completely refill your magic right here. I was pretty proud of myself for that management, but normally it's not that like down to the individual magic, I guess. Switch to propeller dagger here to try to set up a stun lock on this boss. Unlike the first 2 times you fought him, you can't stun lock this Black Knight the same way. You can kind of do a modified version of it here with the propeller dagger, where you jump and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then just kind of hope that he lets you hit him. When he breaks through is random, and when he sprouts wings is random. But when he does that, you can just you have enough time to charge up a charge slash and hit him before he comes over to you. That was actually like a really great pattern that he gave me. Not really very much to comment on. Normally I die a lot, or normally I at least get hit a lot more on that. You would be kind of surprised how difficult it is to stay alive at the end of this run. Going through this game with less and less health as it gets harder and harder kind of makes this run like, I don't even want to say it's like exponentially harder as it goes on, but it definitely like ramps up in difficulty, because obviously the first couple levels are just kind of doing things optimally but not really any differently than you would on a casual playthrough. And then when you get towards the end of the run, you're kind of actually having to use relics to manipulate your way through rooms and stuff. Speaking of, that's the first time I've ever gotten that set up smoothly. Dust Knuckles here saves a little bit of time because you don't have to fight through that bottom part. And optimally, you're actually able to Dust Knuckle your way through the entire like top part of this room. But I just messed it up. Alright, so right here you don't actually have to equip the phase locket, but I like to for my setup for this, just because it doesn't really work super consistently otherwise. After you hit it 5 times, use your phase locket, hit it the 6th time, and then jump up here. Switch over to propeller dagger and use it twice to hop over here, and wait for that green guy, because he's either going to push you forward or back. And just kind of manipulate yourself to get through that room, depending on how they blow you around. It's probably the last scary like skip of the run. And again, that was an intentional death to fill up my magic. Me almost dying on that ladder was me actually showing off on stream how I almost died to that ladder last run, and laughing at myself for almost killing myself again. You don't really need that music sheet at all. There's just nothing to do during this part, so Yeah. So coming up is going to be the boss refights. The refights occur in a random order, I believe, and I think it's random. Like, I mean, obviously the first one you start with is random, but I think like the entire order of it is random. So there's not really any way to like learn patterns or setups or anything beyond just playing over and over again. Right here, I actually jump up faster than the blocks spawn, so I actually get kind of clipped. You can clip into any of those blocks up there if you jump fast enough. But I was kind of just playing it safe. You saw that I kind of clipped through those blocks to even get up to that ladder early in the first place. But yeah, there's not really a whole lot to say about the boss refights. In between fights, you either get a chicken or a chicken and a magic drop. On New Game Plus, you get one chicken every other fight, so it's obviously much harder. This is probably the part where New Game Plus becomes significantly more difficult, even though you have more magic and I believe more health. But you also take double damage. Throughout New Game Plus, you take double damage even if you don't have the Conjurer's Coat. So having the Conjurer's Coat and then taking double damage means that you actually have about as much health, if not less, I believe. It's been a while since I've even attempted New Game Plus, but I thought I would give a shout out to the other categories here since there's not really a whole lot going on. The only other like major category that I know of for this game at the moment is low percent, which obviously is just get through the game without using relics or health upgrades. That again, like basically in every game mode that you're gonna fight, all of these boss refights are gonna be difficult because you have to manage your magic throughout them. I got kind of lucky and got Mole Knight and Polar Knight next to each other because they don't really use a lot of magic, but they do use magic. You ideally just don't want to see Mole Knight, Propeller Knight, or Tinker Knight close together. Because those are the only fights that you like have to use magic on in order to make them manageable. Plague Knight too, I guess, but his isn't like required. Propeller Knight actually gets pretty difficult if you let him get through his first cycle. Mole Knight gets like impossible if you let him get through his first cycle. Like they ridiculously ramped up the difficulty for his fight. King Knight, Spectre Knight, and Treasure Knight are actually kind of like breathers, so I'm actually like extremely happy with the order that I got all of them in here. It's kind of lame that so much RNG exists in this run because it kind of does makes running the game fun, but it also makes it pretty annoying to be consistent at the end of the game. It's also kind of nice to have Flame Rod there if you start to get sucked in, because it's kind of nice to be able to just do damage as you're about to die. I play these next couple fights pretty defensively because I obviously am trying to conserve my health as much as I can. The refight against Plague Knight is very, very difficult, even though the ground beneath you doesn't blow up like it does before. Just the fact that he's moving faster the entire time, like you can tell that he like doesn't stay put at all. Shout out to that backward shot on the wall, by the way. That was pretty impressive. But yeah, you definitely want to have magic for this fight to be able to just kind of spam phase lock it as much as he's spamming teleporting and moving around and stuff. And I actually got extremely lucky here and got Spectre. If I would have gotten Propeller Knight after that, I probably would have died because I wouldn't have had enough magic to do the quick kill. Actually, I guess I would have gotten the magic regardless. I don't know. I guess I would have actually been okay. This refight's really nice because you have the charge shot here. So since you have enough time just sitting around. And right here I actually got a really nice pin against the wall and was able to do the last like 2 blips of damage all at once. And then here is basically the same strategy as you used the first time, except he's going to do 3 cycles of this instead of 2, and then do a attack where he tries to suck you in, so you're actually able to get him down to 3 hearts instead of the 6 that you have him in the first fight. So he actually uses less magic, thankfully, because if you get him, basically if you get him and Plague Knight and Tinker Knight and Mole Knight or something, like in an order where you're all together, it gets very difficult to manage your magic enough to be able to beat all of them quickly. I don't even want to count how many runs I've lost to the refights. Like, they're not particularly difficult, but just the fact that the order is random and you can sometimes get really, really screwed on the order makes them a bit more difficult than they need to be, I think. At least when it comes to running the game over and over again. By the way, random fact, since this is kind of an auto-scroller-y room, if you go off to the left here instead of the right, you're able to access 5 really hidden... oh wait, no, it's in this next room. If you go to the left instead of the right, whenever I'm actually able to go right again, you'll access 5 like really hidden music sheets that a lot of people don't know about. So right here, if you do 4 dagger dashes, I guess, you'll be able to just barely make that end platform. I'm pretty excited at this point because as long as I don't like totally choke here, I should have the sub 1. I've been trying to not look at my splits quite as much when I've been streaming because I've noticed that I kind of tend to get in my head sometimes, and it's a lot easier to stream consistently when I don't know how good the runs are going beyond just if a run feels good or not. And it's ideal to hit her with anchors down here, but it's pretty much impossible because she just... like, she floats back and forth like this, but when she stops and what direction she's facing are pretty random, and actually trying to hit her with the anchors is pretty difficult. So I normally just try until I have 8 or 16 magic, so I can at least get 1 phase lock it off if I need it. And right there, I just kind of wanted to end the first phase. So yeah, spoilers, that was Shield Knight. And now we get a pretty cool final fight where we get our magic and health refilled, thankfully, because I obviously used all of it. Depending on what direction Shovel Knight jumps in here, depending on what direction Shield Knight jumps in, you want to be on that side of the platform and just jumping over these. On the 4th one, pogo up, and after the 3rd hit, you want to just keep spamming that until you do enough damage to skip the 2nd phase. And right here, I just completely derped and missed. That death, unfortunately, cost me 30 seconds. It might have been a little bit more, but I was pretty annoyed that I didn't pogo off the top of her head like I was supposed to, because you'll see me do it in this upcoming run right here where I basically do the same thing, but I'm like an inch farther and I make it perfectly fine. See, that was the pogo that I should have made the first time. But otherwise, that was a great fight, so I can't really be too mad that the refight of her went so well. I was just annoyed that that didn't happen the first time because I could have cut the 59 pretty easily. So I guess since I don't really have very much else to be talking about, major shout outs to the Shovel Knight community, like major shout outs. For the first month or 2, or I want to say, I guess, the first month. For the first month of this game being out, there was a ridiculous amount of competition for this game. Since then, the hype's kind of seemingly died down a little bit more. But I'm hoping that putting this video up will maybe get some people interested who picked up the game once and thought it was too easy and just kind of never played it again or something. There's obviously a lot of skill involved in learning any percent, and especially in trying to get the game under an hour. There's an achievement in-game for beating the game under an hour and a half that is kind of difficult to do. Especially if you've never speedran anything before. It's a pretty good, like, first goal. If you are interested in running this game, head over to pbtracker.net, pbtracker.net, personal best. But that's where the Shovel Knight boards are, and it's one of the most popular games on there. So, like I said, there's a ton of people that run this game, but I feel like there's a ton more people that could be running this game. And with rumors of this game not being accepted into AGDQ, or at least from what I've heard, I feel like it's kind of a disappointing cut, so I kind of wanted to show how good the game can be even without music. The world record holder, Captain Drake, is a million times better at this game than I am. He's the only person with a sub 50 time. I believe his time is 49:20 something. So he's about 10 minutes ahead of me. Nobody's really close to him at the moment from what I've seen. So it would have been really cool to be able to see him run the game with some good commentary behind him. But maybe next time, I guess. Until then, if you are interested in running this game, feel free to follow any of the Shovel Knight runners. They're all really cool people, and from what I've met, everyone is super down to help people learn this game. Major shout outs to Yacht Club for releasing such a cool game. I'm pretty in support of indie games in general, but this game doesn't really feel like an indie game. If you've never played it before, I would highly recommend playing it. It's out on Wii U, 3DS, and Steam, and each version kind of has its pluses. I wouldn't really say any version has its minuses, besides this game kind of being a little easy if you're just playing it casually, in my opinion. But I've also played the game 157 times, so I'm not exactly the best judge of that. But there's DLC coming that'll let you play as the other knights, which will be really cool. There's Wii U, some kind of Wii U DLC coming at some point. I'm not exactly sure when at this point, but it's coming. And the 3DS version, I haven't played it, but supposedly the 3D looks absolutely amazing. But yeah, this is Shovel Knight. I hope you guys enjoyed this. It's taken me quite a while to get a run that was actually worth commentating over. Here I just speed it up because although the people who made this game are awesome and deserve to be credited, I would kind of wanted to get onto another run. Obvious time saves include not dying in Polar Knight and not dying in Enchantress 2. I could also save time if I didn't have to fight Black Knight, because that obviously wasted 30 to 40 seconds. So my ideal time for right now is probably somewhere around 55 minutes. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. I don't really have very much else to say, so just enjoy this, or the rest of the cutscenes, I guess.